Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the second day of the British Library Lotus Sutra Conference. So today we've got a full day of papers, split into two panels, one before lunch and one after. The first panel, which we're about to start, is the Lotus Sutra at Dunhuang. And then after lunch, we'll have Preserving the Lotus Sutra at the British Library, from physical to digital, where we'll hear from the people who've worked on the Lotus Sutra Digitization Project. So this morning we've got a range of fascinating papers, all about or drawing from or jumping off from the Lotus Sutra. And I think they really show us how the Lotus Sutra can be a kind of prism where you shine a light on it, and depending on which way you look, all kinds of things come out. We've got texts, paintings, material culture. And the papers this morning will cover all of these things. And they also show how the Lotus Sutra played a part in human life, how it responded to the needs of ordinary people, how it was a part of birth, sickness, death, and all kinds of kind of human interactions. So we've got a little change in itinerary. We were going to start with Neil Schmidt, but due to some issues in China, where he'll be joining us from remotely, he's going to come after our coffee break. So today we're going to start with Roderick Whitfield's talk. And just a quick introduction for a very long career. Professor Roderick Whitfield is the Emeritus Professor at the Department of History of Art and Archaeology at the School of Oriental and African Studies. He studied at SOAS, Cambridge, and Princeton Universities, and his major contribution to the study of Dunhuang art stems from his career in the Department of Oriental Antiquities at the British Museum from 1968 to 1984, where he was responsible for Chinese paintings, including the Stein collection, and was a curator of several exhibitions based on these collections. After his time at the British Museum, he was a professor of Chinese and East Asian art at SOAS from 1984 to 2002, and he was also the head of the Percival David Foundation of Chinese Art during the same period. And since then, he's continued to write, talk, and publish, and we're very lucky to have him here today. And also, personally, I'd like to thank him for his many incredible publications, especially The Art of Central Asia, the 3-volume publication on the British Museum's collection of Stein paintings, which is an incredible resource and a beautiful publication. So, without further ado, I'll invite Roderick to the podium.
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor to be performing here in the British Library. I don't think it's happened to me before. We've had some television programs recently with Chinese television, but not a proper lecture. And this probably won't be a proper lecture. It is more a guided tour. And I must apologize for the frog in my throat, but I hope it lasts until the end of my talk. As you all know, the Lotus Sutra begins with Buddha preaching on the vulture peak, accompanied by 18 bodhisattvas with long and complicated names. We will touch on 2 of those presently, but for the most part, you'll forgive me if I use Guanyin instead of Avalokitesvara. From time to time, I've not been consistent, I'm afraid. So I want to begin at the end, and that way, at least I know I will get there. And This is one of the better-known paintings, although not of the highest quality, from the library cave at Dunhuang. It's a panel now, but would have been intended to be hung, and presumably, since the cartouche in the center between the male and female donors, since that is blank, it was something that the monastery had in hand in case they needed one, in case a death in the family or something. So it's a standard issue kind of painting. There are the large figure of Guanyin in the center is identified as Avalokitesvara because of the standing figure of Amitabha in his headdress. On the either side are the perils from which the family trust that Guanyin will protect them. On the right, a thunderstorm and fire. On the left, falling or being pushed off a high mountain, imprisonment, and poisonous insects or animals attacking one. 6 in all, though there are 7 cartouches, also all blank. These are supposed to allow you to navigate through a narrative scene, but they're adopted here. This is not narrative, but individual contingencies that you might find. So at the top left, being pushed off a high cliff, which also serves in this case as the prison. At the bottom there is a prison, and outside the door are the stocks from which the person has just been released. Anyway, this is the kind of thing. Now, let's look at the earliest depiction of this subject, a rubbing of a lost stela, dated AD 425, so early 5th century. Eugene Wang has published this and identified all the scenes, so I don't need to go all of them, but we will be looking at the undulating mountains, which reflect, as he says, a still earlier style of landscape, creating a space where we see 3 figures washed away down a great river. While further to the left, a ship in pursuit of treasure is on the great sea, is drifting towards the shore, to the land of demons. We will look at it all in more detail presently. Now, where are these paintings? This is going a little faster than desirable, but you have to go all the way up to the top, to the sloping faces of the ceiling in this Sui Dynasty, late 6th century cave. You go up above Maitreya, who's preaching in the center, and then you are faced with a lot of little cartouches, also difficult to read. But Professor Sha Wu Tian has identified the names of 2 bodhisattvas on this ceiling. One is the Liangli Pusa, Wu Liangli Pusa, the bodhisattva of immeasurable strength, and Yongshi Pusa, the bodhisattva of brave giving, or brave donor. And they're named, both of them, in the introduction of the Lotus Sutra. So it is clear that the monks who painted the murals used the text of the Lotus Sutra as a guide. but with some exceptions, the density of the scenes here depicted are difficult to make out. In cave 420, also from the Sui dynasty, scenes from the Lotus Sutra are depicted on the sloping ceiling. I should explain the black and white photographs are those taken by James and Lucy Lowe in 1943 to 44 at Dunhuang, recently published by Princeton University Press in 9 enormous and weighty volumes. A great achievement. So some of the photographs that I take, you can only find when you look at these photographs, because there's much of the Dunhuang caves that has not been published yet. So we can compare directly with the stone rubbing. And there is not only the Lotus Sutra here, but there's also the Bodhisattva Tigress Jataka in the area outlined in red, and perhaps in the next one. And if we look at it in color, then it becomes a little more intelligible. Is there a pointer or not? Anyway, you have the brothers at the extreme right who come across the Tigress, and Shakyamuni, or Siddhartha, the Prince Mahasattva, makes an excuse, lays himself down. She's unable to bite him, and so he climbs the cliff and throws himself down. So we'll have a lot of throwing yourself down here. So that's up there above the thing. And here we can compare on cave 420 on the right, a great river. It is undulating down, and you have the two swimmers in the river, and another one who is having to swim sort of standing water because the river is not wide enough to accommodate him there. So this is when you are borne away by the river and in danger, Avalokitesvara will come and rescue you. And then immediately after that, you have a larger expanse of water where a ship or ships in search of treasure, and in other words, in the course of lucrative trade, are in dire peril on the high seas because there are animals or demons in the on the shores, and fantastic sea monsters who are there ready to bite them. So if we look at the stone relief, then on the left at the bottom, you can midway up, you can see the ship on the sea, and there's also the two figures swimming down. The two swimmers are here, and the ship is here, and this is this great river with the two swimmers, and the ships are sort of rafts, but they're not so detailed. But we will see others who in that case. And we begin with the with a great fire. Now I'm getting confused, right? So this figure here appears to have been inspired. You know, it's not every day that you walk into a burning house and so on, but the painters seem to have taken their inspiration from the cremation scene in an earlier cave when Shami keeps his vow. This is where the Shami, who's just taken his vows, goes to solicit alms and falls in love with a very beautiful young lady who comes to the door. Then he realizes when she says, well, I must ask Mum first, then he commits suicide. She comes like, is very astonished, and she runs to his master, and he says, no, there, dear, it's all right. All you have to do is build a nice stupa and so forth, which you can see the things on the right. This is from the stupa here. So there you have a cremation scene, which is much more appropriate for a burning. So then we have these two or three figures, and the ships, and we can go on from there. These are supposed to disappear, but they didn't disappear. Okay, so then we can go on to cave 303, where the depiction is a little more orderly in that it starts with the Buddha here, then the Great Fire, which is the first of the perils listed in the sutra, and then the larger area of sea, which is there. So this is the river here, and the sea is here with monsters threatening the ship. So this is more orderly, a little bit easier, but not sorry, not really easy to make out even here. Let's go on. There's 1, 2, and 3. We go on to. So now we move to the Tang Dynasty, cave 217. In this period, we begin to find whole walls that are devoted to a single subject, and that's the case here, although there's the gateway in the entrance to the cave breaks it into two halves, and a later edition of Mankhung Bien has a large donor there also interferes a bit. So at the top, we have the Buddha with his bodhisattvas accompanying him. There are not room for 18, but there are 8. So I guess that is good enough. And then we're looking at the lower photographs here pieced together. This is how they're arranged in the book. And then you have bigger things. So we look on the right-hand half, up here. You should, right. So this is the Great Fire, but a totally different depiction. It's got mixed up with the figures swimming in the river, and so he's swimming away. So this is an attempt to be comprehensive. There are lots of scenes. We're not going to look at all of them, but I show you the earlier, the Sui dynasty figures swimming to point out the thing. And here is the ship it's got in the wrong position in this, if you were following the text. So the ship comes first. It's very distinctive. This billowing sail will be seen again. So, and here, however, is the cremation scene. This is the great fire here. So it looks as though this might be seated, or it may be a standing figure. And then we can look at other scenes. In each case, you have a Bodhisattva, that's Avalokitesvara, of course, coming down, swooping down on a cloud to gather up whoever it is in trouble. So here is somebody falling off the cliff, headlong fall, and then there are others who are like, this is the thunderstorm, and you can see the actual rain pouring down in the detail on the right, person covering his or her head. This is the kind of realism that, and this is a very favorite scene, of course, of the execution, when just at the moment when the executioner is about to deliver the fatal blow, his sword shatters away. So that's where that is, over there. And here is oh, sorry, let's go back. No. Right. Anyway, there are lots and lots of individual Avalokitesvaras coming. Each red swoop shows that. So this is one way to try and do that. So we have to go on rather more quickly. Here's the fire scene in the very famous Cave 45, which you've had here at the British Museum. There's the execution scene. Here is the prison, and you can see how miserable the person is in there. And this is what is quite extraordinary in this cave, that the emotions and feelings here are some truly malicious, malevolent creatures who are surrounding this unfortunate man, and they're totally naked. This is very much not against the Chinese kind of thing. Here is somebody who's seen a ghost and he's gone pale. And here is somebody confronted with his desires. He's met this beautiful young lady, and he, well, I think it's a bit like Granville, you know. Si jeunesse pouvait, si vieillesse... Si vieillesse pouvait, si jeunesse savait. Anyway, so, and here's somebody who is viciously arguing, and here another extraordinary figure of a madman or somebody with mental disorder who is exposing himself. He's completely naked. So let's go on from that to Cave 205, and there's the ship with a very beautiful landscape immediately above it. And this is a difficult cave. You have the whole of the south wall is made up of different compositions, which I think must reflect the fact that work was interrupted here at the construction of the Great Buddha, 96, and so you have different scenes. Oh, this is where it's not working. Okay, including the Perils, which are down here and on the other side. Sorry. So, and the ship that we just saw is down here, and here is Avalokitesvara, really magnificent, with beautiful scrolling flowers on either side, and borders on each side separating the Perils from. So it's just as if you had a painting and were copying it. So this is what the complete figure would look like, but underneath you still have donors who are relying on Avalokitesvara, so this is underneath the ship. So quite a new thing to find in this thing. There you can see that in the center, over there was a blank for a cartouche. And this is the kind of standard for this time, where you have landscape with the Perils, but we're coming to the end. They're very simply done. But I would like to show you Cave 85, where this is the scene where the temptations of the flesh are to be resisted, and it's obviously a scene with a young married couple who are having to debate what they should do. Well, you can see I have brought one along that I made before. I think it's that way up, isn't it? This is done with the Han Dynasty or Tang Dynasty techniques at the Todaiji in Japan. There's a jiaxie, and it's a very simple design because all you need is a couple of planks to and you tie it all up together. Right. Thank you. I'm sorry for a very disorderly talk.